Welcome to the Away Cafe. This is our episode of making black-eyed peas for the new year, and we have a guest. Alice Faulkner Burch is with us today. Alice, tell us a little bit about what this dish means to you. Who taught you to prepare it?
This is actually a traditional dish for New Year's Day in the Black community, and my mother would make this every New Year's Day. She would, not on the day, she'd make it a couple of days before, and this is what we would eat on New Year's Day. And it's a tradition to do this with collards and then whatever else you want to go with it, collard greens. Because the collards represent the dollars and these represent the coins. And so it's a dish of prosperity, you know, of abundance. It's a dish of abundance. And so we would just, and it's a simple dish. This and having the collard greens together is what we would have growing up. Some people do a bigger meal. So Mom would make this. And you know, I don't remember ever having this dish throughout the year. I only remember having it on New Year's Day.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that was the only time we had it. And so marrying my Robert, he comes and he's, you know, and I got away from that tradition, and so he comes into my life and he decides, we're going to do this dish on New Year's Day. Okay, that's cool.
Because you grew up doing it.
Yeah, that's cool. And I don't know why I stopped, you know, eating it. I don't know why I dropped that tradition when I was single and after I, you know, moved away from home and stuff. I don't know why. It wasn't an intentional move. It just happened. Yeah. So, so we're ready to go ahead and begin. And so we've we've washed off the peas, and we want to wash them all off really good. You just rinse them. You don't use soap or anything. You just rinse them. If you've done beans, you know this process. Rinsed them off real good. We put them in the colander. And now we're going to put the black-eyed peas that we've rinsed off into our pot. Can you get it all there?
Yeah.
Using it.
I'll just use my hand.
And don't be afraid to use your hands when you cook. My mom used to say it always adds more flavor. but she would always wash her hands. I'm thinking, how does that add more flavor? But okay, especially when she would make bread, her hands would be all into that dough, and that's the best bread I ever had. And we're going to pour water over it. It's heavy. And it doesn't matter how much water you pour over it. You just want to make sure that your peas are fully enclosed in water and they're going to soak. So once you pour the water over it, you can either cover this with a lid or you can put a towel over it or leave it like this. I don't generally put mine in the fridge. If you prefer to put yours in the fridge while they soak, that's fine. And you're going to have it soaking for a 24-hour period. And the reason that it soaks is because it helps to shake off from the peas any outer covering that's on it, and it also helps to soften the peas for when you're ready to cook them. Otherwise, you're going to be cooking your peas for 2 days. And you can do that, but you don't need to.
That's a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
And Alice, often people say soak beans overnight. But you're saying a good 24 hours.
If you're comfortable doing it overnight, yeah. I'm kind of weird, so I always do mine a day and a night. So in the morning, I put the peas on the soak or the beans, and then I just leave them. And that's what makes this such an easy dish, is because you're not spending an hour in the kitchen all at once. You're just spending like 10, 15 minutes. You're doing this step, and then you're walking away, and you can go do something else. You can go play. And so like while the peas are soaking for the day, you can go off and play all day. You don't need to even worry about, you know, in 2 days you're making your dinner for in 2 days. You don't even need to worry about anything else. Yeah.
Great. Okay, we will set these aside, and then after you've had your morning of play, you come back and you make the stuff.
You can make the foundation of your peas. at the same time that you're doing the peas to soak. And it's just really easy to do. So these can both be done at the same time, and you can walk away. So we're going to start with, we want about six cups of water that we're going to start this with. And we have a ham bone. So we're going to do the ham bone method of preparing the foundation. If you prefer to not use a ham bone, then you can use bouillon to make your stock, or you can use, in the carton, you can find broth, and you can use that. And you can choose to make, use beef bouillon, beef broth, or chicken. Of course, if you're using the ham bone, it's pork. So what I do first is I put an onion, and all the seasonings are to taste. So it's really difficult to kind of say you want to use this much, you want to use this much. If you're somebody who doesn't like onion, you want to use way less onion. Okay, so we have about 1/4 of an onion cut up and ready to go into our pot here.
And it was a smallish onion to begin with. It wasn't 1/4 of a large onion.
And see, I'm an onion person. My mama used to say, she cooked with onion a lot, and I'd say, Mama, why are you using onion? You use onion so much, you use it all the time. She says, onion makes you beautiful, baby. She says, that's why you're as beautiful as you are. I've given you onion since you were a baby. Mama, I don't think so. And then we're going to use some green onions. And I prefer to use even the green of it. That's why I call them green onions. Some people only use the white parts. I think the green part has so much flavor to it, and it does add extra color to it. And this is two of these completely cut up, and the pork will have a little bit of salt in it. I don't generally cook with a whole lot of salt, so when I do use salt, like to do this, I'll do a pinch. And if you want to know how much a pinch is, and this is how I learned to cook, okay? Mom didn't use measuring cups and measuring spoons all that much. So if you want to know how much a pinch is, you take your 2 fingers, your index and your thumb, and you just pinch like this into here, okay? And what comes out between those 2 fingers is your pinch. And that's how much of salt I'm putting in there. And then we're going to use some garlic. And
we have a teaspoon over there.
We do have a teaspoon. So that's 1/4. I'm big on garlic. And I literally grew up on garlic. Mama used to say, yes, garlic is good in everything, and it makes you beautiful. Okay, onion and garlic, I'm beautiful. Yeah. So if you don't like garlic, you want to use way less than a teaspoon of garlic. Okay, you can do a pinch, you can do 1/4 of a teaspoon. Do it so that the seasonings are to your taste. And that's the wonderful thing about, I think, about any dish, is that you can just take the seasonings that you enjoy, that you like best, and just use those seasonings to create that dish. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why when you go from one family to another, dishes will taste different, because the mom and dad in that family has certain seasonings that they prefer that dish be made with. So I'm using a teaspoon of garlic in here, and I actually like a little bit more, but we're going to stay with a teaspoon. You know what, we're going to do something. So I'm going to teach you another measurement. So that was a teaspoon that we used. So Mama would shake off some into her hand, and this is how I do it. I really don't measure. I shake it off into my hand, and I just cup my hand like this, and then that's about right. So we're going to end up putting more garlic in this one. So this
one will be good then.
Yeah, this is going to be garlicky. So that's about the amount. That's about a teaspoon. It may be under, but that's about a teaspoon. So we ended up putting almost 2 teaspoons.
We're going to be real pretty after eating this.
Yes, but you have to keep eating garlic to keep pretty.
Okay.
And then we're going to use just a dash of paprika. And you want regular paprika, not the smoked paprika. We'll do I'm going to show you. It's a fourth, so we're going to use a fourth of a spoon. And that's how much I'll put in there. But I want to show you this other way to measure. So we're going to use just a dash. Hold on, because it's clumping. And we don't want to get the clump, because the paprika is going to add a little bit of a kick to the dish. And you want that little bit of a kick in it. I'm going to mash that one up. And so right about right there for paprika would be good. Okay, right about there. Okay, if you do the hand. And I'm going to go ahead and scoop that up. So that ends up being just a little less than a fourth of a teaspoon, which is actually
maybe more like an eighth.
Yeah, about an eighth. An eighth of a teaspoon. I don't do measuring well because I didn't grow up learning measuring. Because Mom would say, I'd say, Mom, how much are you using of that? Oh, I think I used a pinch of that. And this one, a dash, maybe 2 dashes. And then we're going to use ground black pepper. I prefer freshly ground black pepper because it has more flavor. And this is what I do instead of measuring my ground black pepper. I know how much I like pepper and how much pepper I want in that dish. So this is what I do. I start from one side of the pan and I just grind it going across. And I look at it. Okay, I want a little bit more. So now I'm going to start at one side and I just go across. And I do that because instead of the pepper being all in one lump, I really get to see how much pepper is in there. I love that aroma. You can start getting the aroma of the onion and the paprika and the pepper all coming together.
And that's really smart because I just hold the pepper and do this, and then, I can't see how much
you just put in. And I do that so that I can see it, and then I can decide, okay, I want a little bit more. But also the wonderfulness about cooking is that once it starts, going, you sample it and you think, okay, it needs more pepper, put more pepper. Needs more onion, put more onion, And that's the wonderful thing about cooking. You season your food to taste. We're going to go ahead and put that ham bone in there. Okay, and we're ready to just cover this and let it simmer on real low. And we're going to let it simmer real low for a couple of hours so that the water will get up all of the seasoning and it will produce our broth.
And Alice, often when you simmer something, it gets a little foam on it. Do you skim the foam off if that happens?
No,
okay.
I just go and I stir it. And sometimes
That's why it works for you to measure in your hand too, because you're constantly tasting, which is the most important thing you can do as a cook.
And that's how Mama cooked, and so that's how I ended up cooking. I don't know, it works for me.
One more question, Alice. You said your mama would make this a couple of days before New Year's, and you wouldn't eat it till New Year's.
Yes.
Why was that? Because she was so busy on New Year's Eve? Why did she do that?
No, she did that because of flavor. You want it to set because the flavor just really starts getting all into it. So once you've put everything together and you prepared your dish, you just set it aside, and now you're flavorizing it by just setting it aside. And so when you're ready to eat it in 1 or 2 days, that's when it tastes the best. That was one of the things that I learned growing up, having leftovers. We'd eat the leftovers the next day, and they always tasted better the next day. And the second day we ate Mama's stew, it always tasted better than the first day if she prepared it that day. And she said, well, that's because I prepared it the day of. I didn't let it set. But that's why it tastes better today, because it's now set. And I started realizing, you know, that's like our life when you think about it, you know. Kate, you being married, your relationship with your husband is more flavorful now than it was when you were dating him, isn't it?
Much.
I know mine is with my Robert,
Yeah.
right? Because it's set, it's flavorized, you know, and you add all those seasonings to it in the beginning, and then you learn that you want this seasoning added to it, and so you add that to it while it's cooking, right, through the years. And then it keeps getting this better and better flavor to it, right? Yeah. And so that's like cooking like this, you know. Our life is like that too. And we combine the different seasonings because life is not all one seasoning. Life is not just salt. You know, salt is okay, and salt is great to give flavor, but if the only seasoning you use in life is salt, then your life isn't very flavorful. It's flavored with salt, but not flavorful, meaning full of flavor. And you want to add a lot of seasonings. And there are a lot of other seasonings that you can cook with. And depending on my mood for the day that I actually prepare my base, I may even put some cayenne pepper into this. I may put some white pepper. I may put, you know, whatever else into this. And it just kind of depends on my mood. So from one year to the next, this dish will taste differently. But you may not remember it because you're only having it once a year.
Well, great. We will cover this with water and put it on the stove to simmer.
Yep, we're ready.
So what's our next step?
Okay, so we've soaked the peas overnight, all day, all night, and they're ready to be poured into the broth that we've prepared. And so what we do is we rinse them off. And you want to rinse them off, and this is me because I'm weird. I like to rinse them off real good, and as I do rinse them off, I just run my hand over and through the peas because it pulls off whatever may have come off the peas. I don't like this in my dish. It's frustrating for me to have this in my dish, so I don't like it. Some people don't mind it, and that's okay. I don't like it, so I like that all pulled off. And now we're ready to put our wonderful, beautiful peas into the broth.
Great. I'll grab the broth.
Okay.
The broth that we made yesterday, and then it's cold outside, so we just put it outside in the outdoor refrigerator.
In the winter, yay!
Yes.
All right, so this is great. So we're ready to, oh, this is heavy. We're ready to put our peas into here. So the ham bone is going to stay, and I love this ham bone. I'm just going to pick this up. We did this a little bit before. I'm going to pick this up and show this. There's still just a little bit of meat on there, and that's really good. That's one reason why we want to leave that in there. We've used the ham bone to make the base, and now we're going to use the ham bone to make the rest of the meal. We're going to leave it in there. Whatever meat falls off will become part of this dish. If you prefer, you can actually get a little bit of ham and put it in here. And if that's what you choose to do to go with your peas, this is the time that you want to put that ham in. Already cooked ham that you get from the store just flew out of my mind, the name of the store. You know, the famous ham store. Honey baked ham. A little Burch just reminded me. Honey baked ham store, yeah. And you can just get a little piece of it and then just cut it up and slices how you like. And this would be the time to put that in if you want this to be a meat dish as well. Having it peas, it's already going to have a lot of protein, but some people do like the ham in it. But we're preparing this without the ham. So we're just going to add these. We've already rinsed them all off nice and clean and taken off all the outside. Just going to put these into here and combine them. And at this point, if you find any extra little shells in here, this is the time to just leave it and to pull them out. Yeah, pull out whatever extra you find, okay? And we're ready to just go ahead and put this onto the stove and let it simmer. So this will simmer with the lid on like this, on low. After 30 minutes, you're going to taste it. And what you're going to do is you're going to sample a pea, and you want to make sure the pea is still firm, not too soft. And basically, you want it to be how you like your peas to taste. Is it too hard for you? If it's too hard for you, then let it continue cooking. And again, you're simmering it low, and it's going to simmer for approximately 2 hours. That's approximate because you're going to keep checking it. This is a great dish that you don't have to spend the whole time in the kitchen preparing. You can go off and work on a quilt. You can go off and, work on that next chapter of that book that you've been working on. Go off and write that poem that's in your head. Go off and watch that show and then come back and check on it. This is nice. More of the meat has come off, and that's what you want in having a ham bone this good. This is an excellent ham bone.
So the dish has been simmering for 2 hours, and we're gonna taste it for final seasoning.
So just take your handy dandy spoon and get into there. Give me just one. I just want one because I really want all the others to eat for later. I'm going to put in the bowl, and the main reason I'm putting in the bowl is to just give it a chance to cool a minute because these are hot, and then I'm going to pick it up with my finger. I don't want to blow onto the whole pot. And that's how you tell when it's al dente, when it's ready for you. These are ready. So this is ready to serve now. You can serve this over rice, and you want to have been cooking your rice if that's what you're going to do. You can serve this over rice, put your rice in a bowl and serve it over it, and that makes a complete meal. You've got your protein, you've got some vegetables in there with that. You can add sliced tomatoes on the side, and just a real simple dish. For a traditional New Year's dish, you would have collard greens to go with this, which would already be ready when you're ready to serve everything.
And did your family call this Hoppin' John when you were growing up?
No, I never heard that word until I was much older. Hoppin' John.
So you called it
funny.
Black-eyed peas.
Black-eyed peas, yeah, always called it black. Actually, I always called them black-eyed beans because they were beans to me,
They look like beans.
Yeah, and Mama never corrected. And then one day somebody said, they're black-eyed peas. Like, no, they're not green. No, they're black-eyed peas. Okay, yeah. That's how I grew up, yeah, black-eyed peas. So.
Well, Alice, thank you. It smells subtle and rich, a little bit like ham, but not too strongly of ham.
Yeah,
it's really a medley of everything that you've put in there.
And keep in mind, if you don't like ham for whatever reason, it's okay. There are 2 other ways that you can do this base. Yeah. And either way that you do it, it will turn out to be a delicious dish. Yeah, and whatever seasonings you put in it, it will be delicious.
It's also nice because it's not as rich as some of the cheesy, creamy things we eat over the holidays, so it can help you get back into digesting your food well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I can't wait to eat some.
Yeah.